Hey guys, I'm Lee, and this is Natural Talks. Today's guest is one of the sweetest and selfless human beings I have ever met. She's originally from the Dominican Republic, but grew up in Boston in the US. She loves traveling, writing, music, and she enjoys everything related to the arts, doing yoga and food. She also recently released a podcast called Funky Inspiration. Daniela Garcia. Welcome, Dani.
Hello. Hi, Lee. Hi, everyone.
How are you?
Good, good. So happy to be here with you and with all of your listeners.
Likewise, thank you for accepting my invitation. So, Dani, this is going to be the first thing we're going to do is like a job interview. All right. So,
Sounds
yeah,
good.
the first question is going to be, who is Daniela Garcia?
Hmm. Daniela Garcia is a very funky,
Yeah.
interesting person. I am a student of life. I love to keep learning, keep trying new things, and never sort of limit myself. I like to be a little bit limitless. I think we have been given this one life, so might as well do the best that you can with it and play around, not hold everything so serious and just have fun.
Absolutely. Yes, I totally
Yeah.
agree. And yes, that's you.
Yes.
I certify it. So, we're
Yes.
going to be talking about traveling today and living abroad,
Mhm.
right? Which
Yes.
is, a topic that we know very well, both of us.
Yes.
So, first of all, which countries have you been to?
Okay. It's a long list, so let's
Yeah.
go. Let's see. First country definitely has to be the US.
Okay.
This is where I moved to. Venezuela, your country,
Lovely.
Europe, many countries in Europe, Slovakia, Germany, Sweden, not Sweden, Denmark, um Austria, Slovenia, Italy, Norway, India. The list goes
My
on. There's
God.
25 of them, about 25 countries I've
Jesus.
been to. So, yeah.
That's
So,
but that's amazing. Like the
yes.
fact that you get the chance to travel and be able to meet older people from different cultures and be able to communicate with
Yes.
them and learn from them,
Hmm.
it's just fantastic. So
Yes, I love
I
it.
know that you lived in Slovakia for a while because we
Hmm.
worked together
Yes.
there. And so,
Yes.
what can you tell me about living abroad, about that experience?
For me, I have to say it was one of the best experiences of my life. It was something I wanted to do for a long time. I think since I graduated college in or university, in 2011, I graduated and I went to Germany for 1 month. And this is sort of what made me think of like, I want to live in Europe. There was something about it that really made me like fall in love with the way of European living. Living in the US, US is a great country that, I won't say anything bad about it, but I think that Europeans know how to live life a lot more and they just know how to enjoy life and they have a much better work life balance. So when I saw this in Germany, I completely fell in love with the idea of like one day I want to move to either Germany or somewhere in Europe, and then it just became this thing of like I want to go live in Norway. For some reason I fell in love with with images of Norway and I was like dead set on going to Norway. But I have to say that I didn't end up moving to Europe until 2014. So my dream started 2011, but nothing really took place until I believed myself that I deserved this opportunity. I think I had it in the back of my mind, but I didn't really believe in myself. So everything comes down to fully believing in yourself. And once you believe in yourself, then like the universe aligns you with what you want. So even though, of course, I wanted to go to Norway, the idea of going to Slovakia came up for me. Like my friend Lorena, who you also
Yeah,
know,
I love her.
applied to work in, yes, she applied to work in Slovakia and then she told me about it. And it was like, it was the perfect timing because at this moment in my life, I had decided, you know what, I am going to Europe no matter what. And I was saving money. I was like, that said, I had a date where I was going to quit my job here in the US and live to Europe without like even having a job yet.
My
So
God.
when Lorena told me about applying for this
A
job, I
risky
was like,
girl.
yes, like, yes. I mean, it was a very risky situation, but at the same time, I was feeling a little bit more okay because I was saving quite a good amount of money at this point, and I think I was like really going for it, and I think, like I said, it was this belief in myself that I will make it happen this time, no matter what. So yeah, fast forward, we got accepted. We got into working in Slovakia, which is where I met you. We lived together in the
Yeah.
same house, so it was
Beautiful
wonderful.
memories.
And
Yeah.
then so many beautiful memories, and then like we always kept in touch, even though like I only stay in that house that we lived together for 1 month, because then I remember I got moved to
Yeah.
work in the city in Bratislava. So yeah, I think just I'm very lucky. I have to say that every time I meet friends that I really connect with, like you, it doesn't matter how much time goes by without us speaking, without us having a conversation. It's like when we call each other again or when we talk, it's like time hasn't even passed. Like it doesn't matter if it's
Absolutely.
been months or years. It's
It's
like we
true.
are still the same. Like I saw you last year. I went to Slovakia again just to visit and I met you. And, it felt like the same. It felt like we were still in our 20,
Like just a few days
24,
had passed.
23.
Yeah.
Exactly, just a few days. So yeah, Slovakia for me was, I think, you start to grow up when you turn 18, of course, and all of that. You start to become an adult. But I think moving abroad, like to a place like Slovakia, really was growing up for me because I no longer had anyone I knew by my side. Like there was no mom, there was no dad, there was
Yeah.
not nobody I knew. Nobody I could run to
It
if something
depends on you
went
and
wrong.
only you.
It did only on me. And I remember this is really funny. Um, of course, I had a little bit of my American mentality of like wasting money like without
Yeah.
thinking. And I remember I came with like 600 euros to Slovakia. And I literally used the 600 euros in 2 weeks,
My God.
which is insane, because like 600 euros was usually like what we used to get paid
A
a
whole
month,
salary. Yeah.
so the whole salary. So I had to learn to like how to save, how to be better with my money so that it will last me more than 1 month. And all these things that obviously you will not get unless you are faced with these issues. Because of course, if I'm home and I go through money really fast, there's always the option of like, you know what, I can just be home with my mother, or I can ask her for some help or something. But when you go live somewhere else, you sort of feel like you have to do it on your own. Like you cannot pick up the phone all of the time to call mom and dad and say like, can you help me
Yeah.
out? It's more like, let me just try to figure it out on my own. And that's like what ended up happening. So I felt like that really helped me to grow up and become a better adult.
Yeah,
I would
exactly. That
say.
is a word because it is
Yeah.
adulthood, right? Like
Yeah.
the level
Mm-hmm.
of maturity that you achieve when you're living alone and you're
Mm-hmm.
living not only alone but living abroad, living so
Yeah.
far from your family and those that you love.
Yes.
It is
Yeah.
kind of difficult to explain
Mm-hmm.
unless you actually experience it, right?
Exactly. Exactly.
But
Yeah.
I
And
am
and
so
for
glad
me,
that you took the chance and that you took the risk
yeah.
because that is the reason why we are connected today, right? So,
Mm-hmm.
and how
Yeah.
about the language there and the differences regarding culture?
Okay, so I have to say, like, definitely was interesting, the Slovak culture.
Yeah.
I was already a little bit familiar with it because I had been to Europe, I think about 2, 3 times before I moved to Slovakia. So I was a little bit familiarized with the European way of things. And I will say Slovakia is an European country, so they tend to feel a little bit more
Yeah.
similar. But of course, it's different. Like Slovakia is so quiet. There's so much
Yeah.
silence, like you go in the bus and you can hear like a pin drop because it's so
No, you go
quiet.
on the
It's
bus
like
and you can hear us because everybody was quiet
yes,
and we
exactly.
were the only ones
You
speaking
can hear the
loudly and
Latin
people
people.
staring at us like, "Are you serious? Can you just
Yes.
lower your voice, please?"
Yes. Yeah, so this part was like so interesting to watch, of course, because coming from Latin
Yeah.
America, where you speaking loud is just a way
Yeah.
of life. And then in the US, obviously, there's a lot of Latin people, so you again don't have this sort of super bad stigma
Yeah.
if you are too loud. Obviously, maybe some people will look at you wrong, but at the same time, it's sort of like more part of the culture. But I think when we were in Slovakia, there were not that many tourists or not that many people living
That's
there
true.
that were from abroad. It was mostly just
It was
Slovak
almost
people.
seven
Even
years
for them to
ago,
see
actually,
people,
and
yeah,
it's
seven
true.
years
It's
ago.
true because I have to.
Yeah.
Yeah, I totally agree with you on that one because I
Mm-hmm.
felt it.
Yeah.
But I gotta say that the past 3, 4 years, the situation has improved immensely.
Mm-hmm.
It's been the
Yeah.
change. My God, has been huge because the expats community, as the English people say,
Mm-hmm.
you check all of those
Yeah.
Facebook groups and they say
Yeah.
expats in Slovakia, um,
Yeah.
foreigners, um, has grown so much. Actually, I
Mm-hmm.
was working for this company that was an international company, and then the amount of people, there were like 700 foreigners there only in that
Wow.
company. And there was a similar company
Imagine.
right in front of us, and some others, let's say, around the blocks. So, yeah, it has improved. And also,
Mm-hmm.
Slovaks have understood that, okay, it's not only them, they need to try to improve
Yeah.
their English skills. But also, foreigners
Mm-hmm.
have understood that, okay, you move to that country, so you need to try to also speak their language, right? Which is super
Yes.
difficult. I
Mm-hmm.
speak
Yeah. It's the
Slovak
fifth
and it
hardest
took me a
language in the
while.
world.
I know. It's
Yeah.
the
Yeah.
second or fourth, something like this.
Yeah. Something.
But
Yeah.
it's definitely super hard to learn.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah,
Yeah.
that's great. S-
No, and I agree 100%. Like, I think whenever you move to another country, no matter how much of your language they speak in that country, I think as a foreigner, as an immigrant, we need to also learn that it's so
It's a
important
matter
to
of
integrate
respect,
ourselves
I
into that
believe.
culture. Exactly. It's a matter of respect. And even you're going to have a better time because, for
Exactly.
example,
Exactly.
if you move to another country, you want to be part of the culture. You want to know what people are talking about. You want to try the new things. Because as we were saying before off the mic, we were saying how every country has their own holidays and their own
Yeah.
little activities and phrases, so your life just become a little bit more rich when you start to immerse yourself into this new culture rather than being like, you know what, no, I might go back to my country one day, so it doesn't matter. And I think it does matter. It
It
is
does,
so important to
absolutely.
really
Absolutely.
be part of it, and like fully
It's
enjoy it
about
because it really,
blending.
for me,
You need
yeah,
to
it
find
made my time so
a
much
way
better.
to blend into the
Hmm.
community, right?
Exactly.
The thing is
Yeah.
that, okay, it is understandable that at times there are people that decide to go there and there are others that have been sent
Hmm.
to the place. So,
Yeah.
okay, it's quite different. If you
Exactly.
decide to go there, okay, you sort
Hmm.
of have the mindset that you need to learn a
Hmm.
bit of their language, their
Yes.
culture, and so on. But when you are sent there and you got to work only with
Hmm.
people through, I don't know, English or French or German, because there are these companies that work only with those languages because they work specifically
Hmm.
for, um, this market. But anyways, if you are going to stay there for a while, you need to try to
Hmm.
blend. You cannot be there
Yeah.
for in whatever country, in this case Slovakia, because we have the experience, but you cannot be in a place for two,
Hmm.
3 years and not, let's say, not be able to at least greet someone and have a
Hmm.
very basic conversation with them, because
Yeah.
or you
Hmm.
cannot get upset when they do not understand you
Hmm.
because it is not their native language, right?
Yeah. Definitely.
So yeah, so this is definitely an experience that we are going to treasure forever, I'm really sure.
Yes.
But
Definitely. Yeah.
let's get into the reason why we went to Slovakia, right? So we went there
Okay.
because
Yeah.
we were hired to teach kids, pre-K and
Hmm.
elementary kids, um,
Yeah.
in English and Spanish. I was hired
Yes.
for both languages, but you were specifically hired for English. So
Yes. Mhm.
how about teaching? why did you decide teaching in the first place?
Oh
And
my god.
then something short. You don't have to go
Yeah, no,
along the
no. To
road,
be
but
honest, I'm thinking of the perfect answer because it's really funny. To me, it was literally. I have to say, I have to be 100% honest.
yeah.
It was desperation for wanting to live abroad.
Okay.
This is why I decided to teach. But you know what? It was fantastic because I ended up loving teaching kids. I really enjoy the kids. Obviously, it was hard. Don't get me wrong. It was not easy sometimes to be so upbeat and have to, have multiple kids that you are managing and all of that. But I have to say, all in all, now looking back, I am so grateful for this experience. I wouldn't change it for the world. And it taught me a lot about myself because I had never taught children before. The most I have done was like babysitting or
Yeah.
something like that.
No, but this was
Um,
completely different.
I, yeah, it was completely different, but they accepted me because I had studied psychology. So I guess, they figure psychology and I was coming from the US.
Yeah.
So I had the native English. So I think that sort of helped me get in the door to work at a kindergarten.
Hmm.
Otherwise, I don't think they would have accepted me. But I think it was, to be honest, it was really, really good. And yeah, like I, it was a lesson
I
for
remember
me,
the
not
kids
just,
loved you.
yeah,
We all did.
yeah, yeah.
I
Yeah,
have
it
to
was
say that
it was fun.
there isn't one person that I have gotten to know that knows
Yeah.
you as well that doesn't say that your energy is just amazing. And it's true. It's
Thank
a
you.
thing that you
Thank
are
you,
like
Luis.
a magnet. Your energy is so
Oh.
positive and so clean that you just bring people towards you. And it is a beautiful experience for all of us. So
Thank you.
don't cry, don't cry. We don't have enough time for
I
that.
know, I know. Yeah.
So I
No
want
cry, no
you to
cry.
tell me now about this beautiful thing called funky inspiration. How do you come up with that
Oh
idea?
yes. Well, I think, I am very, like I said, I'm very creative and I'm very inspired by life. So when I thought of the word funky, I thought of something that is like very peculiar and not, like you're just getting inspiration from everywhere. So that's why funky inspiration, because I wanted to have a podcast where it felt like you were having coffee with a friend and that nothing was very script. Like I don't really script none of my conversations. I write out a bit of ideas that I want to bring up in the podcast, but other than that, there's nothing like very, very script that I don't like. I don't go back and edit most of the time. I leave like all of the other sounds that might come into
So let's
in the
say
time
let's
of
say that
recording a podcast.
you have a natural talk with yourself. No
Yeah,
pun intended there.
exactly. Yeah. No pun intended. Yeah. I have a natural talk with myself. And, sometimes I do bring people. I would like to start to do that a little bit more. But funny enough, I do find that for me, it is so much easier to record on my own. And I always find that interesting because a lot of people feel more comfortable the other way, recording with someone else. But I feel more comfortable recording with myself,
Yeah.
So yeah, I wanted to make something that felt natural, that felt like, it didn't feel, it felt honest. That's what I
Yeah.
wanted. I wanted honesty because I think there's so much curated, they call it
Yeah.
curated information out there where people are speaking and telling you the best of the best and how life is so great and everything. But I think I didn't hear that many people being sometimes real and being
Yeah,
honest
this is so
and
important.
yeah, and I think it's so important because nobody's perfect. We all make mistakes as human
Absolutely.
beings, and that's okay. We don't need to hold ourselves so like
To the
like no, I'm
standards,
not allowed
that
to make
have
a
been
mistake.
set up
Yeah,
right
like
now.
yeah, exactly. So I think I wanted to be that other girl on the side of the mic who made the other person who's listening feel like, you know what, I can screw up in life and it's
Yeah.
okay. Like it's gonna be fine. I'm
We
going
all
to
do, and
survive.
we
And
always do. And I believe that even
yeah,
though you
yeah.
get to learn many stuff, you will continue to
Hmm.
screwing up,
Of
throughout
course.
life
Yeah.
because it's a matter
Hmm.
of learning. We never stop
Yes.
learning. It is something that we will
Hmm.
continue to do till the day we die. So I think is
Exactly.
I think
Exactly. Yeah.
yeah. And how do you choose the topics you want to address?
Hmm. So usually the way I choose my topic is either something that is going on in my life, or
Mhm.
like a conversation I recently had with somebody in my life, and I want to bring it on the mic. So that's usually how it ends up happening. Like
Okay.
literally, it's like I will go meet my cousin, let's say, and we go walking for an afternoon, and we have this wonderful conversations that I wish I could record sometimes, but I don't. Obviously for
Yeah.
privacy reasons, I don't want to like do that to
Yeah, of
them.
course.
So I just bring that topic that we brought up in our conversation and bring it onto the podcast. And yeah, usually, and again, funky inspiration. I get inspired by something, and that like activates something else. Like the next one I'm doing, the next episode is about a conversation I was having with my neighbor. He
Wow.
about like the whole mindset of immigrants when they come to the US. A lot of Latin American immigrants, when they come here, they think, I'm going to work really hard, kill myself working almost to the point where I will save a ton of money,
Mm.
send that money to my country, build a beautiful house there, and then move away once I'm like too tired to be here and work anymore. But I always thought that this is so wrong. That because again, you are not immersing yourself in the country that you're living in, but you're working towards a future goal that
Yeah.
might not even happen. Like
That might not be real because you never
that
know
might not
what
be
the
real.
situation is going to be. We all understand that
Exactly.
now.
Yeah.
This
Exactly.
this
Yeah. I think
now that we
2020.
have,
Yeah.
exactly, this
Yeah.
2020 and this now has been
Mm.
absolutely life changing for everybody. And
Yes.
I guess that we
Yes.
need to understand the fact that we do not control anything. So you can try to
Nothing.
work on improving things, and
Yep.
I guess it is always good having a plan B and a C and a D
Hmm.
and an E and and so on, because you never know what's gonna happen.
I
So
agree.
yeah,
Yeah.
that is fantastic. I love.
Yeah.
I have to say that the last one, it was not the last one that you posted, but this episode where you were talking about life and death,
Hmm.
I told
Yeah.
you off mic that I really liked it. I think it was super
Yeah.
organic. Um, it
Thank
was really
you.
felt, and it was super
Yeah.
real because I did connect, with
Yeah.
what you were saying, and it's beautiful. And you started talking about the terrible situation that
Hmm.
happened, with this famous um,
The
player,
basketball player
yeah,
Kobe
this
Bryant.
Kobe Bryant. But then you were talking about the fact that we do not um,
Hmm.
want to accept that we will die. We we will all die
Hmm.
one day, right?
Yeah. We
So
will all die. Yeah.
exactly, yeah,
Yeah.
exactly. So um,
Hmm.
you do the episodes in English and also in Spanish, right?
Yes.
So
Yes.
do you
I
talk
do.
about the same thing in
Yeah.
both languages, or do you change topics according to the language?
No, I have to say that now, or like ever since the second week, I think that I started it, I started to record the same episode,
Okay.
but I record them both separately. So it doesn't mean that I record word for word. What I record, like let's say I record the English one first, and then after that I will record the Spanish one. I don't go word for word listening
Okay.
back to my English one. I just sort of like have the topic idea, and then I obviously have the
You
conversation in
navigate
Spanish
through
and
the
have the
topic and then you start constructing, no? Like building whatever
yeah,
you want to say.
exactly.
And
Yes,
sometimes
yeah.
it might be that you know what you want to say, but maybe it just
Hmm.
doesn't come out the way that you want it. Do you
Yeah.
edit that or do you just leave it like that?
Sometimes I just leave it like that, to be
Okay.
honest, because it's either I leave it like that or I just start recording all over again
Ah.
because I know it's so crazy, but I want it to be so organic and not have all these edits in there that I just, you know what, if I am 15 minutes recording and I messed up or something and I really didn't like what I'm saying, I will just start all over again.
Yeah.
To some people that might seem crazy, but for me, I feel like it flows better. And then, yeah, again, like if I have some minor little mistakes, I just leave them in there because we are I want the listener to feel like
Yeah,
they're having coffee
absolutely.
with me. So you're having coffee with me, I'm not going to be able to edit my
Exactly.
conversation,
Yeah.
So it's just like, here it is, like here's the real deal,
No, the
guys.
thing is that okay,
Yeah.
the fact that we decide to edit, well, actually, I don't. That's why this is a
Mhm.
natural talk.
Yes.
I told you it's gonna be like when we always met and went for a coffee. I wanted to be like this because we were talking about messing up before. So it's fine if you mess up,
Yeah.
if you screw up, and it is not about the fact that
Mm-hmm.
we are now speaking in English. That it is not
Yeah.
our first language. That became
Mm-mm.
our first language for so many years
Yeah.
when we were working abroad. Okay, for you,
Yeah.
it is more common, I have to say, because you live there in the US, so you
Yeah.
gotta use it every day. Um,
Mm-hmm.
but it's okay because I want whoever is going to listen to this to understand that it is okay to mess up. It is all right
Mm-hmm.
if at times
Yeah.
you don't know what to say. In my case, I
Mm-hmm.
tend to make some grammar mistakes that I know that they
Mm-hmm.
are incorrect. I actually am
Yeah.
conscious of it. But the fact that I speak more than two, three languages, at times your brain just collapses. Yeah. So you don't even know. In
Yeah.
my native language, which is in Spanish,
Mm-hmm.
just like you, um,
Yeah.
at times I don't even know what I'm saying. My mom is like, what's that? You know, so it's all right. It's
Yeah.
all right. That's why this is
Yeah.
natural talks. I want to speak
Mm-hmm.
naturally, and if I mess up, I mess up, and if my
Yeah.
guest also messes up,
Mm-hmm.
that's it. And I want people to
Yeah.
understand that it is absolutely normal. But there is one
Of
thing
course.
that I always say: yes, mess up, but then fix it. Okay, learn from it.
Of course. Yeah.
So the fight about
Yeah.
making mistakes, make the mistakes. I have never been afraid of making
Mm-hmm.
mistakes. I can tell you that I
Mm-hmm.
understood that even better when I was learning Slovak because I made a mistake every
Yes.
other second. Every other word, I
Oh.
was like, oops, no, that's not what I meant to
Yeah.
say. Or maybe it
Mm.
just didn't come out right, or you didn't
Mm.
understand, or I don't know what. But the
I
thing is
know.
that, yeah, mistakes are okay, right?
Yeah. They're part of life. Part of life. So yeah,
Absolutely.
I
And we have to
completely
embrace
agree.
them.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. That's the only way to live like a good life, to realize that we don't have to be perfect. Like we get this life to I remember one girl, I wrote something on Instagram and they were like, wow, I really like how you word this about like Earth being a playground and how we can just use it to have fun and try new things. And I was like, yeah, that's kind of how I have liked it to see it since I was a kid, you know. No,
Yeah.
and I think some people sometimes hold themselves back based on like whatever limiting stuff is going on in their life. But I think if you start to look for things that you can be grateful for, it can be small things. Then you every day start to see this earth as a truly a playground where we get to choose and have fun. And I don't know, for me, really it has felt that whenever I am less forceful
Mm.
with life, I get more out of life. Like
That's
whenever I just sort
beautiful.
of let it flow, yeah, I just get more out of this life, you know. So I
That's
think
beautiful.
everybody should try to like, you know, just go with the flow of things and everything will work out in the end. There's always a reason for things happening and we need to embrace this more and more.
Yeah, and also the mindset is very important because if you always
Hmm.
have a negative thought in your mind, it's
Yes.
going to
Hmm.
be sort of difficult to receive positive things, right?
Yes.
So if you
Hmm.
are just,
Yeah.
and also if you are just throwing negative stuff out to
Hmm.
the world, you
Yeah.
cannot expect to
Yeah.
receive the opposite, right? So I think
Hmm.
it's
Yeah.
everything just um, fits into the fact that we need to have a positive mindset. We need to have a positive
Hmm.
attitude towards not only people but towards our earth, as we were saying.
Hmm.
Um,
Yeah.
and then, of course,
Towards
in
life.
life, yeah, towards life, and then life is going
Yeah.
this. That thing is going to bounce, right back at you.
Hmm.
So, Danny, just to finish this beautiful talk,
Yes.
um, any other short message that you would like to leave our audience with?
Hmm. Yeah, I think for me, one big slogan or motto I always go by is do good, be kind, and always just do good to other people. You know, you never know who needs some kindness in this world, and I think if we were all more kind to each other, there will not be people wanting to be terrorists or making, really bad decisions for one another. Because I think once you, because for example, like I have traveled so much, so every time I get to travel, I get to experience so much kindness from other human beings, and this has made me be even more kind. So I think if we can all just be more kind to each other, we will create like this beautiful, beautiful earth where everybody will get more along. Of course, we will have struggles. That's a given.
Yeah.
Life needs to have struggles because that's how we learn. But we could have better struggles. I do believe in that. That we could have more like nice lessons. Sometimes we could just ask for nicer and easier lessons to have in life. So I say, do good, be good, and always be kind. That's my life motto. But I will add one more. Just go for it. If you're thinking of anything that really lights your soul on fire, that makes you feel like, hell yes, I want to do this, then do it. Just do it. Be like Nike.
Yeah,
Just do
go for it. Just
it.
give it
Yeah.
a shot.
Go for it. Yeah.
That's beautiful.
Hmm.
You're a wonderful person, and I know that you say
Thank
and you
you.
mean it. So you're very genuine, and that is one of the things that I love the most about you. Danny, thank you very much for
Thank you, Lee.
joining me today. And you guys have to go
Thank you.
and search Funky Inspiration, this amazing podcast. Go check it,
Yeah.
either in English or Spanish, and you will love it. I
Mhm.
promise you. Danny,
Thank you.
thank you for joining me. I love you, and
Thank
sending
you.
lots
I love
of
you too, Lee. Thank you so
hugs and
much.
kisses to you. And
Lots of
stay
love to
warm because
everyone.
I know that it's kind of colder now.
Yeah, it's so cold.
Bye
Yeah,
bye.
super cold here.
Love you.
Bye bye. Kiss,
Ciao, ciao.
kiss.